All right, so let's talk about the World Series first. So why don't we just give our predictions for the result of the series?
All right. Well, I personally think I know the Nationals are going to win. It's not like in discussion for me anymore
Yeah.
because of how well they performed in Game 1 and 2. I will say that it will go to a 6-game series because they're not going to win. You know what? Actually, I think it's going to be a 5-game series. They're going to win 2 out of 3 at home. And the reason why I'm saying this is because in Game 2, not only did they beat Verlander, but they tacked on the runs in the 7th. They put pressure on the Astros bullpen, and they really made them work. Like in Game 1, it almost looked like a lucky win. Yes, they had the lead for majority of the game, but they tried giving it back. In Game 2, there was no giving it back. It was 13-3. Absolutely no question for me. It's going to be the Nationals coming out on top of this series.
Yeah, I think I told you at the before the series started that people should stop underrating the Nationals. Did I tell you that?
Yeah, you know what else? I just realized the Astros pitching staff is absolutely fine. Every game, look at the postseason. Unless they have been awful, they have pitched around 100 or more pitches.
Yeah.
Their starting pitchers. And by the way, comparing the Astros from the ALCS to now, they are about the same. I know that their run production and, runs against are completely atrocious and way worse than they, looked in the ALCS. The Yankees, what the Nationals are doing is they are capitalizing in the moments that matter.
Exactly.
They're hitting with runners from scoring position, especially with 2 outs. The Yankees could not do that except for in Game 1, which they won 7-0 against Greinke.
Yeah, exactly. And that was because Torres just absolutely tore up.
Exactly. Yeah, 5 RBIs of
Yes.
those 7 runs.
So actually, at the beginning of this series, I thought the Nats were gonna win in 7, but at this point, wait. So Greinke's pitching the next game, right?
Correct.
And then they're gonna go back to Garrett Cole.
They're either going to do that if it's desperation, they will do that. But if they have a little bit of breathing room, it's most likely going to be a bullpen game. I'm assuming, because otherwise there will be short game rest or short days rest for Garrett Cole.
Yeah. So just looking at the momentum that they carried into this series, I knew they had a good shot. But I did not think they were going to smoke the Astros in both, Game 1 and Game 2. I thought they were going to lose the first game because Garrett Cole, he's been amazing.
19-0 since May.
Yeah, so I thought they were going to take Games 2 and 3. And then, before the series, I thought that Garrett Cole would also pitch Games 4 and 7. I might be wrong at this point, but in that scenario, I was thinking that they would lose Game 4, and then whichever game Greinke pitched, Game 5 or 6, they would beat him and then lose to Verlander. And I was thinking that they would pick up the last win against Garrett Cole in a really close game. But at this point, I don't even know if they're gonna have to face Garrett Cole twice again.
That is 100% correct, because they'd have to in a situation where the Astros have their backs against the wall. I do believe that Garrett Cole will be in Game 4 with the 3-0 lead from the Nationals, because that is an absolute must-win game. I mean, no one really has ever come back from that except for the Red Sox against the Yankees back in 2004, which is the only time in history that's happened. So it's, then the Astros really gotta put some runs on the board and capitalize.
I mean,
also,
the
Nationals have 4 starting pitchers who are going to be pitching in this postseason. The Astros only have 3, and that really, really shortens the depth of that lineup, especially when you have your backs up against the wall like they do right now.
Yeah, and also in the NLDS and NLCS, you could kind of see like the Nationals just. I mean, it's not like they were terrible before, but they really ramped it up. Whereas the Astros were going the other way. They barely escaped from the Rays, and then, I mean, who knows what would have happened if Chapman didn't give up that home run in Game 6. I mean, the Yankees might have gotten away with going to a Game 7. Who knows how that would have ended?
Yeah, and even if what I do have to say is the Yankees had Game 2 of the ALCS in their pocket. They led going into the 7th.
Yeah, absolutely.
2-1. And they had so many opportunities to capitalize, especially against the, Astros bullpen, which is not that good. And they couldn't do it. Runners in scoring position, they could not hit. Sanchez and Encarnacion just plummeted into an awful slump.
Yeah, I mean, Gardner as well, and then Stanton did it later on. And even Judge was not performing, like, up to par later on in the series. Like, he just started striking out, and it was like, you would hope that he would have, like, gotten, like, there were times where, like, they needed to score, and he was up, and you would think that you could trust him, but there was really no one you could trust other than DJ the whole series, and maybe you could trust Torres in Game 1.
Yeah. You're 100% correct. Also, I will say this. The Yankees hit bad pitching in the ALDS, beating the Twins.
Correct.
Because the Twins have no starting pitching or relief pitching, for that matter. And the Yankees just outscored them tremendously. And the Yankees had decent enough starting pitching to hold them quiet. Not to mention the Twins choked. So the Yankees looked better than they might have been. And, I mean, these two teams in the World Series right now, I have to say, they looked about equal when they were coming in. I thought maybe the Astros had a little bit of the edge because the Nationals had rested for so long. Yeah. But the Nationals just kept that momentum, even with that rest, and just moved it over into the World Series. They have 8 straight wins going into Game 3. And although both bullpens are horrendous, actually the Nationals bullpen seems to me to be even worse. The Nationals are stringing it through by putting in a couple of their starting pitchers for an inning or two, and then bringing in their key reliever in Sean Doolittle to close out games.
Yeah, like coming into the World Series, even because you would think that the AL is better than the NL, which is why the Astros didn't look as good as the Nats did earlier on. And also, they have the better roster on paper. Like Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve,
they had that better lineup.
And George Springer just started going off. So you would think that they, as you said, did have the slight advantage coming into the series, but the Nats, I think, I mean, it's really just been a matter of capitalizing, which the Yankees couldn't do. If the Yankees capitalized a lot more in the ALCS, they easily could have walked out with the series.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And actually, if you look into the stats of the ALCS, the Yankees had a higher batting average and higher batting average as runners in scoring position, along with a lower ERA, which would make it sound like the Yankees should easily pull away with the series. But you have to remember that, number one, the Yankees would get on base. They'd cause a lot of traffic on base and then leave them stranded. And I know I said the runners in scoring position thing, but it's also because they would hit with runners in scoring position when it didn't matter. You know, when in the 8-3 game they did it. Sanchez actually did it in Game 6.
Yeah, and that was
when they were losing.
That was like a miracle. He actually got a hit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, he did run into one in Game 4, but it was already 8-3. When he did it. So I can't really, the Astros also did the same thing, except they did it. They only hit with runners in scoring position when it mattered.
Exactly.
They would have opportunities, but and even though they didn't take advantage early, they would take advantage late in game, and they haven't been able to get that opportunity now since the Nationals have been tacking on the runs.
Exactly. And I think another problem was the people who you would think that you can rely on the Yankees, they couldn't be relied on. Edwin Encarnacion, I don't even know if he got a hit that series. I think he got one.
Yeah, he got a double in Game 3, and that was his only hit. He was insane in the DS and could not figure it out.
Exactly. Judge was striking out. Torres lost, that crazy streak he had in Game 1.
He actually had a 9-game hitting streak that was halted in, I believe, Game 4 or 5 after he had a horrendous performance in the field too in Game 4, and that was also one of the Yankees' weaknesses. Their defense was just awful.
And I think Gio Urshela actually stepped up a lot more than I expected him to.
Yeah. And people are underrating it because they don't realize that he had, these clutch homers. In Game 6, he hit that home. No one is going to remember that, but he hit a home run
to
put them within a run. And in Game 1, he hit a home run.
I think it was within 2 runs, and then DJ got the tying home run.
No, he hit it earlier in the game, and it was 3-2 at that point.
Oh, yeah. And also, I think
Gardner just missed one.
If he had hit that, even with the fact that, Chapman gave up that homer, it would have been into extra innings. And also, the thing is, Brett Gardner just happens to be another guy who did not show up.
His job in the playoffs, even if he's not getting on base, has to be working the count, and he did not do that at all.
Now, that was what Aaron Hicks ended up doing.
Yeah, exactly. I do not understand the analytics for baseball. I understand that they want, the best hitter to get that one extra at bat, but I'd rather him get up when, there are runners on.
Exactly.
So, that one swing of the bat can drive them all home. And that's what I think the Yankees did wrong. What they had was LeMahieu hitting first. I believe that it should have been Aaron Hicks leading off, LeMahieu second.
I 100% agree.
And then Judge or Torres third, Judge or Torres fourth, Didi fifth, and Encarnacion sixth because you might run into one, and it gives him, more time to relax himself. Sanchez 7, Urshela 8, and Gardner 9. That's what I believe the Yankees should have done. The Astros, even though they did not, tack on all the runs. By the way, the run differential of the ALCS was +1 for the Astros, and they won 4 games, and the Yankees only won 2.
Mm-hmm.
But their lineup was perfect. When they had a runner on, Yuli Gurriel batting 4th or 5th, was absolutely perfect because he would get up with runners on base.
Yeah, and he would make it happen.
And he would deliver. He delivered when it mattered.
And I think another problem with the Yankees was their pitching. Because, James Paxton, how long did he last in Game 2? 3 innings? And then Sevy was taken out early in Game 3. The only pitcher who actually did well in a game was Tanaka in Game 1. Because when he got back out there for the next game, it wasn't terrible. The same Tanaka.
Yeah, 5 innings, 3 runs. And by the way, he was going into the 7th inning in Game 1 with 68 pitches, and they didn't keep him going. What I believe was so wrong for the Yankees was they showed their bullpen way too much to the opposing team.
Exactly.
And they all knew what was coming because when they had opportunities to keep their starters in and save that bullpen, they didn't. In Game 1, they didn't do it. In Game 5, they did do it. But Game 1 was very crucial because you don't know what Paxton's going to give you. And even in the ALDS, he wasn't phenomenal. 4 2/3 innings, 3 runs. It's not, anything special. In fact, that's actually bad.
Yeah, and in Game 2, they took the bullpen out so early that it literally they had to go to CC Sabathia and J.A. Happ at the end. That was just it was enraging to watch because
I understand that they wanted the lefty, to pitch Sabathia and then Happ. and they were running out of a bullpen. But you cannot take out James Paxton early in the game when he has only given up one run. You got to at least give him one more inning, I believe, and save your bullpen just that much.
Exactly, because they went to the bullpen so early that by the end of 9 innings, the game was tied, and they decided to take Chapman out. I would have been in favor of actually keeping Chapman in one more inning, because then
they had the day of rest next day.
Yes, because I think J.A. Happ was the last guy that they could go to, right?
Yeah, it was.
Exactly, and I think they should have kept Chapman in one more inning, and then went to CC, and then once CC was like really tired, then you go to J.A. Happ, because the odds are you won't be going to CC again later on in the series too much, and you don't know how long this game's going to go. Knowing how good the Astros are, if your pitching can last, we know how bad they were with runners in scoring position. So this game could have gone on forever. So I think they should have, because CC Sabathia was a starting pitcher.
Yeah, but he was pretty much finished. This was his final year. He wasn't terrific this year. He was battling a lot of injuries. By the way, he got injured in Game 5.
Yeah.
But what I was kind of enraged about when I was watching this series was when you have Encarnacion struggling.
Yeah.
Bring up Luke Voit. I don't care about this World Series garbage. Stanton's not playing. You got to replace him with Luke Voit. And then when CC went down, I understand that they wanted, another bullpen arm, but they brought up David Hale. He's beyond bad, number one. And number two, when your DH, the guy that you're going to count on is not doing well, then fix it. Don't just say, oh, he'll run into one. I believe they also should have placed Romine into one of the games. Maybe to give Sanchez a day of rest, or maybe turn him on and make him realize, I got to work for this. This isn't just free. But, anyway, back to the World Series. The Nationals lineup up and down right now is phenomenal. Suzuki in the 8th hole is delivering. It is first postseason home run last night in the 7th against Verlander. First pitch, by the way, to give them the lead 3-2. And Juan Soto, in his first ever World Series appearance, Game 1, goes 3 for 4 and hits a ball the other way onto the train tracks.
Oh, yeah, he did hit it all the way to the train tracks.
He is unbelievable, in my opinion. And Rendon is actually going a little under the radar. He's having a pretty good series. And Mr. National, Ryan Zimmerman, is staying hot. Howie Kendrick is a dangerous hitter right now. Won the NLCS MVP, where he and Zimmerman, I believe, single-handedly just took out the Cardinals hitting-wise. Offensively. And, the Nationals pitching is really outstanding right now. They have Corbin starting Game 3. And then Anibal Sanchez, who had no-hitter in the NLCS Game 1, going into the 9th inning. 9th inning, 1 out, was their only hit. It was a single. But, that's your number 4 starting. That's when you know that, you really are set for this series. I believe they come out with an easy World Series title.
Also, I think Scherzer has actually been underperforming a little bit.
You are correct. You are 100% correct. And it's actually reflecting on his previous postseason stats, because he has not been terrific in the postseason with the Nationals. He's been giving up some home runs here and there, and his ERA is not that great. It's about 3.8, and he has a below 500 winning percentage, which isn't that bad considering that the Nationals were so bad choking in the for the past few years.
Yeah,
but yes, you are correct.
And I just want to kind of go back to the Yankees a little bit, but it also relates to the World Series. If you think about it, they had an opportunity to take Justin Verlander.
You mean Zach Greinke?
No, because I just read it online today that they had a chance to get Justin Verlander, but they didn't want to pay him.
Yeah. The that was actually Garrett Cole. That was Garrett Cole. Oh no, never mind. You're correct. That was Verlander in the off season.
Oh, my bad. Off season, yeah.
And the Astros gave him the big money. They kind of signed him right away, so I don't really blame the Yankees. Like, it was immediate. He really, really helped them win in 2017. He single-handedly, I believe, in that series, took down the Yankees. In all three starts, he just destroyed them. Yeah. And he was the edge that they needed to win that World Series. I don't blame them for signing him right away. It was a smart decision. I know he isn't performing right now. By the way, he did not have a bad start. 6 innings, 3 runs. Is about a 4 ERA. It's considered a quality start, not Verlander type stuff, but I just everything's going right for the Nationals right now. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, because I was just gonna say, think about how it would have affected both series if the Yankees actually had Verlander, because it's very possible that they would be in the World Series right now. And I mean, because the thing is, I only started coming back to baseball like in the last few months or so. So basically I had like a 4-year hiatus. But I mean, even back when I was a big fan, so that was like maybe like 2014 or 13. Like, I remember back then it was Verlander and Scherzer on the Tigers, and
and they gave both of them away. Yeah,
and I mean, you would think that like by now Verlander would slow down, but he really hasn't, which is kind of incredible.
He is almost, I believe, like a fine wine. He doesn't necessarily get better with age, but he's definitely not slowing down. He, by the way, threw a no-hitter this year. Yeah. I just think right at this point he's run out of gas. And, same with Garrett Cole. They're just, they can't go anymore. They've overpitched themselves. And, let's go back to the regular season just for a quick moment.
Yeah.
And I want to just talk about MVP, just really quickly.
All right.
I know that everyone wants the MVP to be the best player, in baseball. But yep. I personally believe it should be the player that contributes the most to his team and helps his team, win or at least go somewhere. Trout, I understand that he's probably the favorite in the AL to win the MVP. But he didn't. If let's say he wasn't on the Angels, instead of being however bad they were, I'm just going to say 20 games or 10 games under 500, they'd be 20 games under 500. If LeMahieu of the Yankees wasn't on the Yankees right now, who knows if they win the division? Who knows if they get even to the ALCS?
Yeah. I mean, I half agree with that because I feel like it should be a combination of who is the best player, but at the same time, who's the most valuable to their team. Like, we're gonna talk about this later. I don't want to fully go to this topic right now, but it's the same thing in the NBA. Like, people are arguing about like, is it supposed to be who had the best season, or is it supposed to be who's the best player, or is it supposed to be who's the most valuable to their team? Because if it was the latter, then LeBron would be winning MVP every single year. Except maybe last year. I mean,
didn't make it. It didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, but obviously I think people have started to think that it's who has like just the best numbers for that season.
Yeah, exactly.
And
you're 100%
that's
correct.
why Russell Westbrook took it a few years ago. And that's why Harden and Giannis.
I mean, Westbrook's MVP. I mean, that season you kind of got to give it to him. Number one, his team made the playoffs, and it was his first year without KD.
I mean, I say it was a toss up between him and Harden. I mean, I'm not saying it was the wrong decision. I'm not saying it was the right decision. I think it was just a 50-50 kind of thing.
I believe personally that it was the right decision, because he changed, the game with triple doubles. He created a new record. He averaged a triple double.
True, but you also have to count in the fact that a lot of times he would get free rebounds. If you looked at his uncontested rebounds numbers, they were through the roof. Basically, he had Steven Adams boxing out for him to get free rebounds, and he was chasing those triple doubles. So that's why I think that brings him down a little bit and puts him on an even plane with Harden. But let's just go back to baseball for a second. So we've been just discussing the Astros pitching and everything, and I just want to bring up the batting order one more time, because it was clear that the batting order was not working. Edwin was batting fourth, and it just was not working. The Astros, I mean, they didn't even need to throw it near the strike zone. They could just throw it into the dirt, and he would chase it every single time. And it happened with Sanchez until it got a little better later on, but it still wasn't necessarily good. So I think I agree that they should have batted Hicks first and DJ second. I think there's arguments for both Judge and Torres at the 3 spot, but I think it really depends on whether or not Stanton's in there. Because for me, if he's in there, I'd put Judge third because you want him up after DJ.
Yeah.
And then you have Stanton with the power. If he can't make things happen, then you have Torres, who was red hot early on. But I mean,
exactly.
I think
and after game one, you kind of got to start him. And also, I just want to put one thing out there. As a leadoff hitter, DJ LeMahieu had over 100 RBIs and 26 homers. Now, I know that the power numbers were through the roof this year with the juice balls and whatever. But by the way, in the postseason, that settled down. They clearly took away the juice balls because there was no, the power production just went straight down. And I mean, his batting average with runners in scoring position, LeMahieu's, was the best, of the Yankees by far, one of the best in the major leagues by far. And, you can't have that guy batting first. You got to have him batting second and I guess occasionally batting third.
Yeah. Basically what I was going to say is if Stanton's not there, I think Torres should have batted third because you need someone with that kind of power at the 4 spot. And I think if it's not Stanton, you're going to put Judge there. Because I wouldn't really trust Urshela or Didi so early on in the lineup. I mean, they could kind of fill that spot maybe on like some other teams, but with the kind of roster that the Yankees have, it wouldn't work on the Yankees.
Yeah, I agree. Where would Stanton do you think that? And if you were able to design the lineup?
Where would I put Stanton if he was in?
Yes.
I said I would put him fourth because he's got
fourth,
power.
okay. And then Judge third and Torres fifth?
Yeah, Torres would be fifth. And then I would say you finish off with Urshela, Didi, and I mean, in this case,
I think the lefty bat's got to be in there a little right after Torres in that situation. I would put Didi and then maybe Urshela, and then the trash cans in Sanchez and Encarnacion, and then you got to bat Gardner ninth because number one, he's got speed, and if he gets on, he has a chance to go from first to third on a single. He can break up a double play.
I was actually gonna say that I was gonna bring it up that actually if Stanton played, Hicks wouldn't be playing, which means Gardner would be, in my eyes, would be batting first because he has that speed. Even though he wasn't hitting well, if he manages to get on base, then a DJ single up the middle or to right field would put him at third easily.
Exactly. Yeah. And it puts a lot of pressure on the pitchers knowing that there's a guy on base who can easily snag second or, in some cases, third. I understand that, he's a little older and his speed has gone down just that much. But he's still super fast, and he can snag that bag for you when you need it and break up that double play.
Yeah, the only reason why I said Gio after Torres is because I feel like because Torres, like, he was so good and you can kind of depend on him to get on base. I was thinking that Urshela is a little more dependable to, get Torres all the way home. And then if he wasn't able to, then I feel like Didi's got some power. I mean, I don't think he really got that many, like, singles or doubles, did he?
In Game 6, he had a double. He had a grand slam.
Yeah,
in
I'm talking about like base hits, like not home runs. And I think
I don't remember offhand.
He got some walks, I think. So, and then obviously you put Sanchez and Edwin at the end.
But you got to what I believe that you have to have a lefty in there, besides Hicks in the leadoff spot, because then it's just too much time before another lefty batter comes to hit, especially when you're facing the Astros, who only pretty much have righty pitching.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, it's a matter of, like, do you want to show, like, a different thing to the pitcher, or do you want to just, like, rely on, like, who's been doing what and, like, go off of that? So,
all right.
Do you want to talk about off-season moves for the Yankees?
Sure, and then we'll hop into the NBA, especially since the season just started. I believe if the Yankees want to make the Fall Classic next year, they have got to sign Garrett Cole.
Yeah, I think that's a unanimous kind of thing.
I would understand if they limited his innings, since he's clearly out of gas right now. He's not even he was throwing 99 coming into the postseason, even in the DS, and now he's thrown 95 and he's not hitting his spots. Neither is Verlander, by the way, but that's a different story. If the Astros had win the World Series, they come back somehow and they win, Garrett Cole's not going anywhere. The Astros are re-signing him. He's going to want to stay. I know that he grew up a Yankee fan, though, and that gives the Yankees just a little bit more edge, and he might even settle for like a little bit lower of a contract just to come to New York. And by the way, he's shown that he can perform under the pressure. So
they have to pay him.
I gotta pay him.
I mean, who else do they have expiring? I think Edwin's expiring, correct? And so is Gardner?
Oh, yeah, but Luke Voigt's taking over that spot.
So, Edwin, Gardner, who else is expiring?
Oh, yeah, Gardner is, as you said. Oh, Didi is.
You got to re-sign him.
Personally, 100%. And it's not because this year his offense was not, that great. But in the past, number one, it has. And also, he has been so good defensively that you've got to resign him. Even if he doesn't get that big money, you got to give him something, and you got to resign him. You got to bring him back, because when Torres played shortstop in Didi's absence this year when he was injured, he was not all that good.
Yeah.
And I believe Didi is that. And by the way, he's a lefty for the short porch in right field if he plays the full season. Which he's shown that he has some pop, but without the juice ball. But he's way too good defensively for the Yankees to let him go, and their defense just was not up to par. This championship series against the Astros, and I believe they have got to sign him. I don't know if they got to sign Gardner again. I know that he had an outstanding season, but I don't think he can do it again.
So I don't think the Yankees have anyone else expiring that's really relevant, do they?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, so I think they have to bring back Didi. Hopefully it won't cost too much. In my opinion, I would just say bring back Gardner on a 1-year deal. See how he plays for one more season.
That's what they did actually last year when he had it.
Yeah, I mean, because he had a good season, so I'd say give him like one more season. And then, like, when he really starts to play bad, just, tell him, like, yeah. But
don't give him the big money, though. Give him, I'd say, about $4 million max, because, he's not going to perform at the level that he did this year. And he's going to lose a step with speed. He's getting older. and he's just not going to produce like he did this year.
Yeah, but also I think the way that their pitching went in the ALCS, just looking at that, if you want to have a shot at the World Series, you have to get Garrett Cole.
Your bullpen's got to be stronger.
Yeah, their bullpen has to show up because Adam Ottavino, he gave up that home run in Game 2 that tied up the game.
Adam Ottavino is the only guy on the Yankees that they didn't pitch right. He loves pitching day after day after day after day. He does not like rest. He's one of those pitchers where when he's just that much tired, he's able to perform better. Otherwise, the stuff hangs, which happened, and he gives up the big hits.
I think so. Basically, if they added Garrett Cole, oh wait, right? Isn't Chapman can turn down his option?
I don't think he's going to. He's making a lot of money with the Yankees. I don't think he's going to.
I mean, I'm just hoping if he does decide to opt out, I hope the Yankees get him back on a 1 or 2 year deal. But I think their starting pitching is.
I don't think he would sign for a 1 or 2 year deal though if he opts out.
He might not.
He wants a long term contract.
But I think Garrett Cole's the key here because.
Yeah, exactly.
Because also, not only are you signing Garrett Cole to your team, you're signing him away from the Astros.
Exactly. You're taking something away from a very productive and powerful team, and you then actually become the new powerhouse in the league.
Exactly. So, do you want to move on to the NBA now?
Yeah. All right. So, moving on to the NBA. Brooklyn Nets just had their first game yesterday. Kyrie had a 50-point game, but the Nets they couldn't come out with the dub. Went into OT and lost by 1 to the Timberwolves. I mean, I understand that it's opening day, but when someone scores 50 points, you gotta produce with him. He had 50 points, I believe, 8 rebounds and 7 assists.
Yeah. Go on.
I mean, for a point guard, the eight rebounds is right there. That's perfect. That's very good. The assists, maybe that's what drew the Nets down because he wasn't passing all that much. I mean, 7 assists is not exactly bad, but I still believe the rest of the Nets have to bruise. He almost scored half of their points.
Exactly. Like this is not like 2K where you can score all your team's points and win the game. Like the rest of the team has to produce as well.
They got to show up.
Yeah, it's a team effort. So also, let's talk about opening day for a little bit. So yesterday was the second day. So the Raptors and the Pelicans played. I mean, I think
Siakam was
Siakam and Van Fleet and
I believe that what we saw in opening day from Siakam is what we're going to get for the rest of the season. And the reason why I say that is because I saw a very high ceiling for him in the playoffs. He gave it his all. He showed up and produced. And now that he's back in the regular season, and now that he's pretty much the guy who has to carry that team, I believe this is what we're going to see from Siakam for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I actually don't think that he's going to be as good as what you're saying, but I do think it's somewhere between what you're saying and how he played last season because he's definitely going to get better, but I feel like you have to – his production, his stats are definitely going to go up because Kawhi's gone. That'll give him an opportunity to shine. But also you have to keep in mind there's still Kyle Lowry, there's still Marc Gasol.
I understand that, but I believe he's going to average around 23 or 25 points a game. I know that's very high, especially coming off of a season where he only averaged about 16, which isn't exactly bad. But you're right, they're losing a key player. But Kyle Lowry is not the main point scorer, and he can just feed Siakam the ball. He's a playmaker. He'll just feed him the ball, giving him more opportunities. And Marc Gasol is not as good as he used to be. I mean, he's still good, but he's not going to get the ball as often as Siakam.
The only problem with that is I think Siakam can be inconsistent at times. He showed that a little bit during the finals. So they can't always go to him. So I don't think he's going to get like mid 20s. I think he might get around 19 to 20 because and also keep in mind Kyle Lowry can still shoot the ball. Marc Gasol's same thing goes for him. Marc Gasol can get into the post. Kyle Lowry can finish around the rim. Siakam is more of like that guy that can. He's not excellent at one specific thing, but he's
good at. He's like a little bit. Yeah,
he's a little bit of everything. But I think that's the thing that's gonna hold him back. I think is that he doesn't have that one thing that he excels at. Every single top star, most I would say, if not all, 20+ point per game scorers have something that they really, really excel at. So, just think about it. I mean, LeBron's got his finishing and his passing. Kawhi's got his defense. He can shoot, finish. He can work out of the post. KD's probably one of the best offensive players we've ever seen. So if Siakam does develop that throughout time, I think he can eventually get there potentially. But I think it's not within reach this season.
I'm not necessarily comparing. I'm not actually at all comparing him to LeBron.
Oh no, I get that.
I know. But I do believe that he can reach the mid-20s, points area for the reasons that I said before, and I know that he's not going to single-handedly, carry that team. He's got some pieces with him, but I know that he believes that he's got to step up if he wants his team to win.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that's what's going to motivate him to score that much. Anyway, moving on to the West, the Lakers.
Right, the Lakers and the Clippers.
And Clippers. Everyone's hopping on the Clippers bandwagon. I understand that they have Kawhi. He just came off of that World
They still have Paul George back. Keep that in mind, too.
They have Paul George as well.
I know. I said it, but he's not playing. That's another thing.
I know. They're going to win a lot of games. They're making the playoffs, that's for sure.
Yeah, they got Lou Will.
But, that man is... He pretty much carried them to the playoffs last year and put up a pretty decent fight against the Warriors.
And Patrick Beverley's defense, you can't forget about that.
Yeah, that's true. He offers pretty much nothing at offense. But
they're one of the best defensive teams in the league right now.
Yeah. What I do think is, even though everyone's hopping on their bandwagon, with good reason, I want to compare it to the Phillies. I know that I'm switching sports, but I want to compare it to the Phillies. Everyone was predicting the Phillies to win the World Series. Not saying that the Clippers aren't going to make the playoffs, because they are going to. There's no doubt in my mind. But I don't necessarily know or believe that they're going to come out even on top in the West, because the Phillies had what seemed to be a stacked team. They had Aaron Nola, who was coming off of a Cy Young caliber season. They brought in the best catcher in the game, supposedly. McCutchen was coming in. Jay Bruce was coming in. I know that they signed him or got him from Seattle. And David Robertson was coming in. And Bryce Harper, who, by the way, I'm not going to get into the whole conversation about how he's overrated, but they finished below 500,
mm-hmm.
and they actually were worse than they were last season by a win.
Yeah. Even though the Clippers, they did beat the Lakers, and they still don't have Paul George back, as I said earlier.
Yeah.
I still feel like the Lakers will end up on top of the West now, because
exactly.
Yes, LeBron's lost a step, but he's still a top 5 player in the league. And
you also have to remember now that he has help. He has
Anthony
AD.
Davis is arguably a top 5 player in the league.
And we don't know when Cousins is coming back necessarily, but when he comes back, that's going to be a huge piece. And I believe that that'll be the perfect thing to put them in the right direction.
Yeah, and the Lakers have more depth than the Clippers as well. Because when you think about the Clippers, you're thinking the starting lineup, Lou Will, and then most people don't even know what the hell comes after that. But the Lakers, think about their starting lineup. They started with, I think LeBron, Avery Bradley, Danny Green. They had Kuzma and Anthony Davis. They had Dwight Howard.
And they have like, some of these guys splitting time, especially, Kuzma. But anyway, my point is they have players that are ready to step up if something goes wrong. The Clippers don't have that. If one of their main men go down, that's it. They're just, which is actually what happened to the Phillies, but I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah, I don't know if KCP's going to step up. He had a really bad showing that game. But if he does, he's another piece that they have. They still have Rondo. You can't forget about that.
Yeah,
Cousins,
that's a great addition off the bench. He's going to be great off the bench. And you also, you know what
they have JaVale McGee off the bench as well.
No, he's starting for now because you can't really trust Dwight Howard. Anyway.
No, it was Anthony Davis starting at center.
Oh,
yeah, LeBron and Kuzma and Avery Bradley.
Now that I think of it, they have the most depth, in my opinion, of any team in basketball. And now I want to actually jump to the Pelicans, who everyone thought, this is our year. We're going to make the playoffs. We're going to make a run. Not necessarily come on top, but they're going to make a run. And their fans must just be absolutely devastated. They lost their key player in the draft. They traded AD away to get, some decent pieces to surround him. And if they win without him, then they got a shot. But I know that he's out for 6 to 8 weeks. But if he comes back to a team that's in it, they have a real shot to go deep. I'm not saying that they're going to come out on top, because I don't believe that they are. It's, Zion's first season.
Yeah, of course not. That's not a question.
That's not it. Everyone was predicting them to have a phenomenal season, and I just don't see that happening anymore. Maybe they make the playoffs, but I just don't see them, rising.
I'm thinking
to the
they're
top.
going to make the playoffs as a lower seed.
Maybe the 8th seed.
I think how it stacks up is probably the Lakers, the Clippers. I would say the Rockets, Warriors, and then the Nuggets and the Warriors at 4 and 5. I think they're kind of interchangeable right now.
Yeah.
I think you can't forget about the Blazers and the Jazz, so that fills out 6 and 7. And am I forgetting somebody? Or because I think if I'm not, then the Pelicans would fill out. Oh, the Mavericks, right? Luka Doncic and KP. So I think that's gonna be a
deadly combo.
And also, I think the Jazz. Mike Conley played pretty bad, so I think.
I don't see Mike Conley helping this team.
So those 4 teams are going to be fighting for those last
1
3
for
spots
16
in the
field
playoffs.
goal percentage. Mike Conley had a 1 for 16 field goal percentage. You can't get much worse. And people want Lonzo to have a good season. He airballed that 3. I understand that everyone's like, oh my God, it's so horrible. But, his numbers weren't that great, but they're still, he's getting there. He doesn't, I don't think personally that he has, the highest ceiling in the world, but he's getting to his potential. And to bring up one more thing in the NBA, everyone is counting out the Warriors. I understand that they lost a huge piece in KD.
But that doesn't mean you forget about them.
I know, but people are saying that they're the 4th or 5th seed, and I believe that they could possibly get higher than that, especially since they still have key pieces. They have Draymond Green, and Clay, and
no, they lost
Curry.
Clay for the season.
And by the way, they got. I know that they lost Cousins, and they lost
Clay for the season.
And they lost a huge piece in KD. Not that he would have been playing much this season. But anyway, they do have a little bit of depth on their side.
They have Dre, D'Lo in their starting lineup too.
Exactly. Yeah.
So but I just don't see them playing better than the Lakers, Clippers, and Rockets, and the Nuggets are really up there, as well as the Blazers. So which is why I think they fall in that category. But
I don't see the Blazers, in my opinion, topping the Warriors. I can see them topping the Nuggets right now, but I don't see them topping the Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know with those three teams who's gonna come out like on top of the others. But I think it's a toss up right now. We'll see as the season goes on. But let's just jump over to the East for a second. So you got
almighty Knicks.
Yeah, so I would say, but at the top you would probably have, I would say the Sixers, the Bucks, right?
Yeah, I'd put the Sixers or Bucks on top, and
Sixers as the first seed.
I'd actually,
because I think Sixers at the first seed because the Bucks lost Brogdon. That's huge.
Yeah, you're right, 100% correct. But what I do see is I still see the Raptors in the mix. The East is not that strong yet.
Yeah, I think. Yeah,
I still see him, in that mix.
Yeah, I think the Nets, the Pacers, and the Raptors will be, in that 3 to 5 seed range. But,
I believe that the Nets are going to be like 4 or 5 seed. They just upgraded that, just a little bit, and I believe that they're not going for it all this season.
Of course,
yes, they might make a decent run.
They lost
run
KD
in
for
playoffs,
the season, so.
But next year is what they're looking for. They might even, sign someone in the offseason after this season. I'm not going to jump through that. But right now, they have an easy ticket to the postseason.
For sure.
I believe.
All right, so do you want to talk a little bit about football?
Sure. What I do see in both New York teams, the Jets and the Giants, have been horrendous. I mean,
of course,
the Giants have been just a little bit better. And they're not actually, I take it back, the horrendous thing. I'd say that they're, a mediocre team. They're not terrible. But
the Giants are below mediocre, but they're not like Jets.
Jets
terrible.
Level of bad. But their rookie quarterback in Jones has shown some potential. I know it's his rookie season, and they're not trying to go anywhere. But I see something, some potential, and Giants fans can look forward to this. Him and Barkley are going to be that core, but they got to actually build something fast because Barkley, players of his position don't usually last that long.
Yeah.
And I believe that they've got to start. They got to put some team together. They've got to help their quarterback who keeps getting sacked like 50 million times a game, and get some sort of offensive line to protect him.
Yeah, I'm not saying Daniel Jones was the right pick at that spot, but he could turn out to be like the KP for the Giants. Everybody, just hates him, and he could turn out to be good. He could also turn out to be a bust. We don't know, but he doesn't look like a complete bust yet, if that will happen. And also, I mean, Saquon, that injury for Saquon really, really hurt them. So, I don't know how much he can. How well he's going to bounce back. We saw him come back for one game.
I see his window of his career spanning about 5 to 6 total years, counting his rookie season, of being elite. Because I don't see him lasting long, especially with how much they use him and how much he gets beat up at that position.
Yeah, which is why he's also really good for fantasy. I mean, because they're going to him a lot. But the only bad thing is that his production has actually not, for fantasy players, I mean, it's not been what people expected. Like, if you drafted Saquon number 1, which I happen to actually do, you're probably looking over at Christian McCaffrey being like, I wish I had drafted him. And also, if you want to look at some QBs for fantasy, I'm just going to talk about 2 of the ones that I have. Well, one of them, Sam Darnold, I had. I got rid of him the second I saw that. He was going to be my backup for when Wentz had that bye. And speaking of Wentz, he hasn't been exactly that. He hasn't been good at all in the first quarter of the Eagles game.
Well, I don't blame him. He's been injured, and mono is a tough thing to come back from. it really ruins you. And right now, I just see the Jets as a lost cause.
Yeah.
I do not know what they're going to do in the draft because they're what their position right now would be to do is pick up that star quarterback in the draft. I mean, they're one of the worst teams out there. I'd say, maybe the Dolphins are a little worse.
The Bengals are down there too.
Bengals are that, yeah, but the Jets are just they're just such a lost cause.
I think you give Sam Darnold another shot. It don't count him out completely, but if he just continues to play like absolute crap, then I think you have to do something about it.
I say the true year to find out what his potential is next year. This year he had to battle, a tough injury or actually a sickness in this case. And I just don't see him, as being 100% right now.
Yeah, go on.
And going forward, I don't see them needing another quarterback just yet. I know that there, might not be another quarterback in the draft anytime soon that's, hyped up like this. But I believe that next year is the real test, and they've got to give him that shot. They really aren't going for anything soon. So they have, the window to do that.
Yeah, and also going back to Wentz for a quick moment, the thing that I have to say is he's had his moments where he looks really good, and then you have the game that he had last week, and if you're a fantasy player and you have Wentz on your team, that does not look good. And
I have a feeling that he's on your fantasy team.
Yeah, exactly, which is why I'm pretty annoyed about it because. I mean, Russell Wilson was still on the board, the number 1 QB when I picked Wentz. So now I'm really starting to regret it. And I picked Saquon over CMC, which is just really killing me now inside. But
I don't blame you for doing that because, that insane rookie season Saquon had, I don't think anyone could not pick him. The only thing that I would have taken into account is the amount of times they feed him the ball, including last year. And the beating that he takes at that position. His
usage is through the roof. And just to touch on...
And I don't believe it's fair. They're not going anywhere. So I don't know why they do that. They're just kind of shortening his career little by little and closing their window to be good.
I guess. I mean, they do have Golden Tate now. They have some solid receivers. They're okay.
Yes, but we both know that this year they're not going anywhere. I don't know why they... maybe next year could be what they consider their year. But this year, they're just not good enough.
All right, well, hopefully the GM and the coach doesn't hear that, or else my fantasy team is just going to plummet. Just to touch on some more recent stuff, Kerryon Johnson is out for the season. Another L for my fantasy team.
In football, I mean, every single player gets injured. It's just, the most violent contact sport, out there.
Rugby might be up there.
Yeah.
And so might hockey.
Because they don't play, they don't use any, gear, protection gear. But in football, they're all pretty much trying to kill each other. So injury is inevitable. And what you try to do is limit the times that your players can get injured. And that's what I know that, your fantasy is getting destroyed because of injuries. But when you're a football, coach, you don't want your star players going down, especially when their window is already probably short and you guys aren't going anywhere. You want to conserve him for that season that you make a good run.
Yeah, but also when you're playing fantasy in a sport like football, a lot of it is a lot of it's just
luck.
Yeah, exactly, because who gets injured and who doesn't. Sometimes it's not who makes the best draft. Sometimes you might have the best draft and all your players just go down, and then you're screwed. I mean, I personally I think I have one of the best rosters in my league, but I have a losing record because of all these injuries. I was projected to have the second seed at the beginning of the season, and now I'm kind of fallen off. Hopefully, I can get back into the playoffs. But I mean, it's a struggle for any fantasy football player who has all these kind of things piling on.
And yeah,
So,
and some of these, I mean, New York football in the Giants and Jets. I see a little bit of a future for the Giants, but the Jets are just a lost cause for me. They make like these, they have I just see them as the Mets of football, except worse, because they get coaches with who are trash, like the Mets, who have not exactly great experience in any way, shape, or form, and which the Mets do as well. And they love to get a lot of washed up players, like the Mets, just to bring in some fans or give them fans a little bit of hope, and then they kind of crush it in game one usually. But I just don't see, New York football right now is just nothing special.
and I just also want to bring up something. I think Michael Bennett just got traded earlier in the podcast. I didn't exactly pay attention to who he got traded to. Let me take a look right now. He got traded to the Cowboys, so the Cowboys just got even.
Oh, all right.
I mean, the Cowboys they haven't been having the greatest of stretches, but I think
they want to make the playoffs again.
Yeah.
Because they have
the pieces.
They believe that they have enough, especially since they made it last year.
Mm-hmm.
And which actually, with football, it's like a year-to-year sport, if you know what I mean. You can be great one year, a Super Bowl contender, a great team, then the next year suck, partially because of injuries, and partially because player skills just, drop dramatically sometimes. And it's going to happen to Saquon Barkley, I believe, which is why the Giants better, step it up and get some good players.
Yeah, but also with the Cowboys, they have a lot of good pieces. They have, on defense.
They just need that one thing to gel it all together. And I think that this might be it.
Because on defense, they have guys like Byron Jones, DeMarcus Lawrence. And then on offense, I mean, I don't even think I need to say anything. Dak Prescott, Zeke, Jason Witten, Amari Cooper, Randall Cobb. Their offensive line, which never seems to be bad ever, which is why they're. I mean, if you play Madden and you take a lot of time in the pocket, like play with the Cowboys.
You're not in trouble.
Huh?
You're not in trouble if you take a lot of time in the pocket. If you're playing with the team, this is also what I believe happened with the Giants over the past few years. Eli Manning, although he was slowing down, I believe had something left in the tank. And if they had an offensive line to protect him, because he wasn't a mobile quarterback to begin with, and now taking into account old age, it's just he's gonna be terrible.
Mm-hmm. And also, I think offensive line. I think it's honestly up there with the QB, and if not higher, like in terms of most important positions, just because. If you don't have an offensive line, you can have best QBs.
Unless you have like a really good mobile quarterback, then you've got nothing going for you.
Exactly. If you can have a good QB, you can have the best running backs, the best wideouts. If you don't have a good offensive line, you will have no time, and they will just get stacked before they even get back to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
So does that do it for today?
Yeah, I think that this is it for the podcast day one. Mm-hmm. And, that's been, pretty much every relevant sport out there right now.
Yeah, I mean...
And
so
right now, I'm just rooting for the Nationals to win the World Series, and then...
Which Yankee fan isn't?
I actually know a couple who aren't. Some who were on my baseball team. But anyway... rooting for the Nationals all the way up 2-0 right now.
Yeah, so...
And I see the Lakers as having a phenomenal season, along with the Clippers. And don't count out the Warriors is what I got to say, and don't count out the Raptors.
So
they've been there, and they've shown that they can, perform.
Right, so I'm also gonna touch on some wrestling news for a little bit, just real quick. So just touching on some recent rumors, Roman versus Brock is currently looking like it could very well happen at WrestleMania 36 in Tampa. If you guys remember, a while back, Shane McMahon called Roman a two-time Royal Rumble winner. And Vince was mad because it actually gave away the finish for Royal Rumble 2020, which Roman was supposed to win, I guess. So, I mean, I don't expect the fan response to be good, but if the backstage officials thought the reaction to Seth versus Bray was back with the screwed up finish at the end of Hell in a Cell, I don't know if they've seen anything yet. If they really decide to go through with Roman versus Brock for the third time, I believe, at WrestleMania. Yeah, that's correct. The third time. So I also want to touch on the Rusev versus Bobby Lashley feud. A lot of people are like already writing it off. I feel like it has some potential if it results in a good match with a good backstory. People are saying it's bad because it's bringing back some the non PG vibes from the Attitude Era with a lot of sexual references and stuff. But I think if they can turn it into something good that's related to good pro wrestling, I think it works out fine. But I honestly just want to say the WWE main roster has got a big problem. Their storylines are very lackluster. Their matches disappoint constantly. They come up with terrible finishes like the Hell in a Cell ending. So honestly, to be honest, I've given up on the main roster product. So at this point, I'm only watching playbacks on YouTube. Hopefully things get better for them. As a fan, I want them to do good. But if they're not going to do good, I really don't have reason to go watch week in and week out and get disappointed all the time. I'm going to touch on AEW a little bit. So they had their not first, what am I saying? They had a really good show yesterday, though. I think the second match, it went a bit long, and it caused too much tag action at the start. I thought they could have spread that out a little bit. With I think it was the Lucha Bros versus Private Party to start off. That was a really, really good match, but I think packing tag action at the beginning just wasn't smart with the SCU versus Dark Order match. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but I think that because you stuff too much at the start, people start to lose their attention a little bit. Orange Cassidy, I think they're incorporating him slowly, but I think it's a good idea because they have a lot of stuff going on, and you don't want to throw him right in there. He's getting a chance to show off his character. For NXT, yesterday, I think that was one of the best shows they've ever had. Roderick Strong retains his North American Championship, celebrates with the Undisputed Era, and then he had who also ended up attacking Keith Lee at the end. And then Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, and Finn Balor all came out to confront the Undisputed Era. And then, it happened. Finn Balor turned heel again. Well, I shouldn't say again. He was a face the whole time in WWE, but he was a heel in New Japan. So we'll see how close his new character comes to that. He brought out the Bloody Sunday. So that was big. That move, I guess, is returning potentially as his finisher, which I really like to see. He hit it on Johnny Gargano on the outside. And then the Undisputed Era attacked Tommaso Ciampa. Finn Balor, I think he did the gun sign with his hands. So I mean, it's looking like we're getting some of Prince Devitt. I think the real rock and roller could be back. I guess we'll see.